Here goes the intro.
God, I love YouTube. Top 10 films about serial killers. Good shit.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a French episode. Let's get Frenchy with it. My name is Bob. Chilling. This is Straight Chilling. This is going to be episode number 199, recorded on Sunday, January 27th, 2019. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Martyrs. We're going to be slamming baguettes and brie, sipping the wine. The wine! Before we get down to it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Santa Barbara, California, Randy Gandy, G. Laney. What's up, man?
We are not French. I don't know if that's obvious. We have very little knowledge of France by the sound of things. But yeah, oui and shit.
Je m'appelle Robert.
Oh.
Next up, calling in from Southern Korea, my boy Soju.
What up? It's your boy, I guess, Bourgeois Stains today, if we're getting French with it, you know?
We are getting French with it.
Apparently.
Voulez-vous coucher? Whatever.
Avec moi.
What's that? Avec moi. Thank you. C'est
With
soir.
me. Yeah. We know French. I've
Tonight,
been there. You've been there.
You know Lady Marmalade. That's basically French.
Yeah, we're cultured as fuck.
Dude, fromage, okay? That's all I got to say.
Je voudrais omelette de fromage.
What is that?
Martyrs. We're talking Martyrs tonight, by the way. And it must be noted, this was a Patreon pick. It was not chosen by one of us. It was chosen by supporter Stephen King. I don't know if you guys know that Stephen King listens to the show, but
yeah,
he
our
does.
boy Stephen King.
Yeah, the one and the only.
Legit, our boy Stephen King.
That is our boy.
Yeah. We hang out on the weekends. We do Jaeger bombs. That's actually how he sounds. That's exactly how he sounds. So thanks for supporting the show, Stephen. We greatly appreciate it. And thanks for making us more cultured than we were. C'est soir.
It's gonna be a fucking nightmare.
Let's get into a little bit of housekeeping real quick. This is the last week for you to vote on the February poll pick. If you support us on Patreon at the $5 level or above, you can vote on a movie we're going to discuss next month. You can vote between Audition, My Bloody Valentine, and of course, Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze.
Oh yeah, straight to the top, right?
To the top.
Anyway.
Audition is still winning. It's looking pretty well in Audition's favor.
Good.
Yeah. There's still a couple spots open for our $10 level. So if you want to pick a movie, much like good sir Stephen King did, and have us review it, you can still do that. So jump on it if you would like.
Get in there quick, because all the extremely troubling films are getting snatched up left and right.
That's true. I was thinking about that.
I was gonna mention this later as part of the review, in reference to other films, but we need it's like our extreme file, like our X-Files, extreme files of Straight Chilling, like a reference.
The XXX State of the Union file. Yeah, let's
all
do
the
that.
extreme episodes.
It's extreme like pickup trucks and buffalo flavored potato chips.
It's extreme like fucking Mountain Dew and fucking snowboarding.
Baja Blast.
Our Ball Blast files?
This is the Baja Blast file. That's what it is. And now an entry into the Baja Blast files.
Dude, if Mountain Dew wants to sponsor us, I'm...
When you walk into Taco Bell, they're going to have our show playing on the speakers.
That's right. That's right. We've struck up a deal with Taco Hell, and they are now officially letting us speak bullshit into their poor customers' ears, as well as their horrible intestinal troubles they'll have us listen to.
This show is brought to you by 5-layer burritos and chalupas and fucking cinnamon twist, motherfucker.
Cinnamon twists, wee.
See, we are cultured. Look at that. What else we got?
Extreme shit.
Twitch. You want to talk about Twitch a little bit, Justin?
Oh yeah, we're doing housekeeping. Yeah, finally finished up our first game of the season. Took about a month to get through. Little Nightmares is wrapped up. If you want to watch the individual playthroughs, you can do that on YouTube. They're up for a little while on Twitch. Twitch doesn't store them like indefinitely, so that's why I've been uploading them to YouTube too if you want to watch that. And keep an eye out for a review coming for that game. And we got to pick a new game for next month. I've had a couple requests, so if there's a specific game you want your boy Soju to play through on Twitch, hit us up on Instagram or Twitch or Facebook or whatever, and let us know. And I'll be picking a new game for next month. And Bob, you have a new video up on YouTube, which is bumping. You want to tell us about that?
I do indeed. I got in on that YouTube action, and I made a quick little video talking about my top 10 Blu-ray releases of 2018. You may or may not know that I buy Blu-rays like it's going out of fucking style.
It is always, but
it's coming back. Physical media is not dead.
It's okay. All right. Enjoy your record collection, Gramps.
You have more than I do on vinyl.
I sure do.
You do. I don't know, but yeah. So I chose some Blu-rays that released last year that I think are worth picking up. I talk about them briefly, and there's some links below the video if I talk about anything you're interested in buying. I included some links so you can do that too. But yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, if you'd like more of that kind of thing, let us know. If you think I'm fucking stupid, then I'll stop making them. Let me know.
Let us know how stupid Rob is in the comments.
Yeah, be very specific.
Let us know how stupid he is with all your subscribes and likes, please.
That's true. Oh yeah, dude, we're like almost at 100. We're really close.
Yeah, I was about to say we can tell you where that video is.
Threshold of YouTube channel possible. Please help us hit the lowest benchmark for any.
You gotta start somewhere, man.
I was gonna say we could tell you where those videos are at, but we don't have a custom URL, and we won't until we hit the 100 mark. So we are very close. I think it's like we need like 15, 14, 13. I don't know. We're getting close. So if you can, if you haven't yet, stop. Click on YouTube, search Straight Chilling Podcast, click on our beautiful logo, and hit subscribe, please. Once we hit that 100 mark, we can say, find us at Straight Chilling Podcast, YouTube /extreme/BajaBlast.com.
If you guys don't hop in and join our YouTube, I'm going to have to hire my fixer, Michael Cohen, and get him to tell everybody so that we can get fucking subscribed.
I need a fixer. I just need a guy who does stuff for me. Like, why don't I have one of those people yet?
I don't know, man. You need them.
Apparently.
Lots of illegits on Stain's Rolodex.
His name's Dick Bibbs.
He needs to handle my international trouble.
Dick Bibbs.
My boy,
international super spy, Dick Bibbs, on the case.
Dude, if I hire a guy, I'm going to pay him extra just to change his name to
I just want to hire somebody and call them my fixer. I don't really care if they do anything. I just want to have a fixer. Is that wrong?
No, if you ever hire a plumber, he's technically a fixer.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
right.
but
fixing your plumbing.
I guess I'm gonna hire a handyman. Just have him on retainer and just say, "Yeah, this is my fixer. Name's Jeff.
Give you $50 a month. Let me talk about you." Gentlemen, let's talk about what we've been watching this week. Yo, Randy, what you been watching?
I've watched quite a bit. I am bored. Let's see. I rewatched Moon. You guys have seen Moon with Sam Rockwell?
Yeah.
That's a great one. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Again, even though the special effects on the moonscape are a little dated at this point.
Oh, are they? Oh, that's a bummer because I guess it came out like what, 2008, 2009.
Yeah, it's like it's rough for today, but it's like it's passable. You can tell what the fuck's going on.
It's the moon, bitches.
It's the moon. What the fuck do you care? So I watched that. I watched The Little Hours, which was very bizarre to me. That was an odd fucking movie. I enjoyed it.
It is.
It's for those who don't know, it's on Netflix. It's it's described as a late night comedy. I don't understand why that is, but it's sort of like it's like a drama it's a dramedy thing with oh shit, I almost said John Krasinski. Who the fuck? John C. Reilly. It has John C. Reilly. It has Aubrey Plaza. It has Allison Brie, and what's her other dick? Molly Shannon, and what's her other? Makuchi's in it.
Kate
And
Makuchi,
it's basically like this. It's like a parody of a style of movie that I've never seen parodied, which is sort of like this pastoral sort of like prestige film about like nuns in an enclave, and I don't know. It's pretty fun, and fucking Dave Franco's in it. Fucking Dave's in it. So it's pretty fun. I don't want to like dig too deep into it, but
Wouldn't,
it's
like Sister Act fall into that category?
No. That is a slapstick fucking comedy by comparison to this.
I just want to give props to old Whoopi, you know.
Yeah,
she's gonna be in our Patreon, our poll pick for next month. So
it's gonna be Sister Act 1, Sister Act 2, and The Nun.
Since Ghost is heading straight to the top, a last minute resurgence.
I like
and
that
then
trilogy,
what else?
Randy.
Oh yeah, that's the third. That's the third Sister Act.
It's
the last
third one.
Abducted in Plain Sight. Have you guys seen this documentary on fucking Netflix?
No.
It will break your belief in humanity entirely. It's
too late.
Fucked up. And like, I watched it before watching Martyrs, and I will say more fucked up than Martyrs. I feel pretty. It gutted me. It's pretty like, I don't know, man. I mean, one's fiction and one's not, so that's really the key difference. But it's a documentary about a girl who was kidnapped by a family friend, and it just gets worse from there. So watch it if you're into being bummed out and fucking hating everyone. And then last but not least, yeah, I know, big sell. And then last but not least, Becky and I went and got to watch Harmontown be recorded live this past weekend, which was
awesome.
Fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fucking fun. If you guys get a chance to listen to the newest Harmontown episode, they've refined his shitty freestyle raps into actual like semi-produced songs, and they play some of them. It's so fucking funny. They riff a fucking whole song about fucking old people. And I know that sounds like a base level humor, but trust me, it fucking is, and it's hilarious. So yeah, great, good stuff. That's what I watched.
Nice.
Had a long
Juice,
list.
what you been watching?
There's a new show on Netflix. It's called Kingdom, and it is a South Korean show that Netflix did, and it's a zombie show in medieval Korea, just like that movie that came out last year that I've been talking about. No relation, as far as I can tell. I haven't done a whole lot of research, but I think it's just another medieval zombie film. But it's I haven't finished it yet. I think there's only 6 episodes that are about an hour long a piece. But so far I've been like really impressed by like the cinematography of it. Like it seems like they put like a lot of like work into this. Like it actually like looks really good. So it's like it's a quality show as far as I can tell so far. And it's so yeah, I've been really digging on that. And good practice for my Korean. I'm like, oh, I know what that dude's saying. So that's nice. Yes. But so yeah, that's on Netflix. That's mostly what I've been watching. Things like keep popping up. Netflix, like I was just like watching it. It was like Ted Bundy now. Watch this Ted Bundy show and like all this. And I'm just like, man, like Randy said, like sometimes I'm just like a little bummed out because I'm like, I know this is what's popular on Netflix, but like we just have this like terrible obsession with these terrible things.
It's it's been a heavy week for me in terms of viewing. Like
yeah.
And
well, like Martyrs is one thing, because like that, but like you said, like, oh, let's watch this like Ted Bundy documentary, or let's watch the, kind of, we've talked about this before, especially like old Bish too was getting off his lawn about it, but like the whole like obsession with like true crime and all that stuff, and I'm just like, man, we probably like shouldn't be like like
that
propping these people
over
up. Yeah. Fucking
There's
goddamn Ted
a
Bundy and
level to
people who
which it's
abduct like
acceptable.
girls, like taking like girls and kidnapping them and shit. It's like, god damn. It's like you always get like the copycat like scenarios and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty. I think true crime is fucking great. So like, it's very, very fucking enlightening to find out what humans can fucking believe and are capable of, and how they're fooled, and how like, I don't know. I think it's worthwhile to note some of that stuff. But yeah, there's also a weird glorification of fucking Ted Bundy right now, which
which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Is that it, Juice?
Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. So yeah, I watched a few things. I did actually watch that Ted Bundy documentary, the Ted Bundy tape. Did you guys watch? You did? You watched?
I've seen a couple episodes. There's only 4.
Yeah, there's 4. I watched all 4 of them, and it was I knew like the gist of what Ted Bundy had done. I didn't realize that he like escaped multiple times and stuff like that. And, like kind of crazy. He was a little more involved than I realized, and like he represented himself in court. Like he thought that he was better suited to do so than his lawyers were, and I just like his ego is insane. I mean, I don't know. Just learning a little bit about the inner workings of that man is interesting. It is like kind of dangerous, like walking that fine line of you don't want to glorify this person, but it's like a train wreck. You can't look away or whatever. It's just learning how depraved some people actually are and like what they are capable of. It's fucking something. I don't know. It's interesting.
There's a catharsis
in a very dark way. Yeah.
It's a catharsis for me. Like you get all that shit out. It's the same thing as with like a pretty brutal movie, except it's fucking real. So there's an added sense of like immersion for me. But
yeah, and there were women on the documentary, like back in the 80s or whenever he was captured, and they're being interviewed and they're writing him letters and stuff, and they're like they don't believe that he's guilty, and because he just looks kind of like a normal decent looking white dude. He's got a big smile on, and he's relatively well spoken, so these women are like kind of crushing on him, and it's weird because it's like you have no idea if he's guilty or not. You're just some random person.
That's
no idea.
That's the interesting like aspect of it, like to me, like it's almost like people like their brains can't be like, they see it and it's like, here's an attractive man, and here he's like very personable and charming, and like their brain just won't let them accept that's the part. We like grow up with these cartoons, and the dudes have like the twisty mustaches, or they're like they have these like looks, and like it's almost like people build this like, no, that's not possible that somebody is capable of that, and their like brain won't let them accept it. Because like one big thing, it's not horror, but it's like R. Kelly's back in the news, big thing like in the music world or whatever.
That shit's insane.
And like but the women who like defend him, or who like say things like, oh, I let R. Kelly like rape me, or like terrible things, but like people say it. They say it. And he's got this level of success and this level of like just like good looks and rich, and it's just like it's such a weird. That's the most interesting thing to me, and I'm like, it's Ted Bundy from that aspect, and even like Manson and stuff like that, like just people like getting into this like cult of personality and just being like willing to accept terrible things, or not being able to see the facts in front of them because of maybe somebody is like good looking, or like that's so strange,
somebody's good with I mean that's the value of watching like true crime and shit, is not to glorify anybody who did anything horrible, not usually anyway. It's really to be like, it's like cautionary tale at the same, and it's a catharsis at the same time. It's like, so you can be just like a regular dude in the streets and a piece of shit in the sheets. Like that's it. That's reality. The reality is that you don't have to have a fucking Snidely Whiplash mustache to fucking be a villain, a devil person.
Ted Bundy was known for shitting the bed.
It's this big crime. Everyone knows the shitting.
Now that you mentioned R. Kelly, I was at a blue collar bar on Friday and it was karaoke night, and I watched a middle-aged white dude sing "Fly Like an Eagle," and it was one of the greatest things I have ever witnessed.
Wow.
Anyways,
was he not up on the news, or?
I have no idea. Probably not, actually. Most likely not.
Okay.
I watched another Netflix show called Trigger Warning with Killer Mike. Are you guys familiar with this show?
I'm familiar with Killer Mike and his views on guns, so I'm assuming that's what it has to do with.
It's got it's a show. There's like 6 episodes up on there. If you're not familiar with Killer Mike, he's one half of Run the Jewels. He's a rapper. He's got a lot of music out there. He's from Atlanta. The show is taped in Atlanta, and each episode has its own topic. They're like 45 minutes long, I believe, something like that. But he kind of jumps around, like I don't know, like one episode is based on like the Crips and Bloods monetizing themselves. Like he was using the Hells Angels as an example, like how they have merchandise, you can buy stuff with their logos on them and stuff. And he's like, why haven't black gangs done the same thing and like monetized? And potentially, should they make enough money off merchandise, maybe they won't have to sell drugs and do illegal activities and stuff like that. So he's sort of like coming from a decent place when he's making these episodes, but it's like, it's crazy because he gets like, you know, Cripa-Cola. He tries to like sell Crip and Blood sodas, and he totally manufactures the sodas, and they get like labels designed, and they're going around carrying cases trying to get like people in Atlanta to carry these sodas and stuff. I don't know. That's just like one episode. There's another one where he tries.
That's really funny to think about. That's like an interesting concept.
He has interesting ideas. Ooh. Some of them are really outlandish.
Cripa-Cola doesn't qualify, or
he creates his own religion in one of them. But
okay, now I'm interested.
He sort of expresses that Christianity is sort of not helpful to the black community, so he wants to create his own religion with like a black Messiah, with like a black Jesus, basically. And he has this friend whose nickname is Sleepy because it looks like he's asleep all the time.
P. Floyd?
Oh, that's an inside joke. That is great.
We actually know a man named Sleepy P. Floyd.
Sleepy P. Floyd. Holy shit. Anyway, he gets his buddy who just looks like he's napping constantly to be like the Messiah of his new religion. It is nuts. Anyway, it's pretty entertaining, and he's got some interesting ideas. Killer Mike, he's a well-spoken dude. I like him. He seems chill.
One day I'd like to start a religion, so just be on the lookout.
The Cooter Hunters of America is a pretty good start.
Well, now that you mention it.
Oh.
That's more of like a gang. That's more of a squad.
Well, I mean, the Crips are going for martyrdom. Why not you?
The Church of Cooter. Everyone
Speaking
gather
of
around.
martyrs,
segue. Let's talk about the main event, Martyrs. Get into the back of the box. Martyrs from 2008.
I love the Rob. Going in vein of how you just decided to enunciate those words, I'm going to ask that you read the back of the box as if you're a pro wrestling promoter, and this movie is your prize fighter. Okay, get going.
Okay. I'm going to do my best. I'm not up on wrestling, but here we go.
You can do it.
The plot of Martyrs is as follows. A young woman's quest for revenge against the people who kidnapped and tormented her as a child leads her and a friend, who is also a victim of child abuse, on a terrifying journey into a living hell of depravity.
I loved it. I loved that. That was terrible in all the right ways. I love it.
Great. Directed by Pascal Laugier. God.
Oui, Monsieur.
Thank you.
Monsieur.
Monsieur.
Yes.
Martyrs, chosen by Stephen King. Again, thank you, sir, for supporting the show. Gentlemen, have you seen Martyrs prior? And were you aware of it? Its name kind of rings out. It's sort of infamous in the horror community. Were you aware of this movie at all? And what were your thoughts going into it?
I was aware of it as a movie. I know that it had a reputation for being pretty fucking brutal. And I didn't know for sure that it was a new French extremity film until it started, and I was like, okay, they're speaking French. That's definitely where we're going with this. But yeah, I didn't know much beyond that. I didn't really know the plot points. Really, my main method of entry into that whole subgenre is high tension. So that's my experience in that realm is pretty limited.
Cool. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I have actually seen this movie before. I don't remember a few years ago I watched it, and pretty much for its reputation, I think it was the reason I kind of sought it out. I was like, well, here we go. Let's do it. Yeah, I was familiar with this film, and I was thinking, like, when it got picked, if I was excited to watch it again. I don't know if I was excited. I was intrigued to watch it again. I was like, okay, like covering this again. It's been a few years. This
actually, I was confusing this movie, and I don't know why. I'm really not sure why, but in my mind, this movie and Antichrist, Lars von Trier's Antichrist, they occupied the same space. So I was like, which version of the movie is the right one? And I started looking Criterion Collection Martyrs, and that is not a thing. So I came up short on everything. I was like, oh, what's going on? No, this is not a Von Trier film. Von Trier film.
So you watched Antichrist, is what you're saying?
No, I have not, but I want to now. I was kind of looking forward to it because I was like, it's a Criterion film. It's probably pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Would you guys recommend people check Martyrs out? Loaded question.
Yeah, it is a hard question. I mean, I find it I think it's a very interesting film, for me personally. So, I mean, it's hard to recommend because you don't want to be a weirdo. Be like, you gotta watch this film. This chick gets beat.
You don't want to be
you don't want people to think, but I think as a film, it has some really interesting things that I'm like really excited to talk about today. So cool. And maybe this is one of those episodes where maybe it's really good to listen to the podcast. Like if you can't handle extreme films, this might be perfect for you because the film really does like bring up some really just interesting concepts that I would like to talk through. But the visuals are hard to get, like to see it, to get to those things is tough. So this might be kind of the perfect fit for you if you're not really into watching extreme scenes or extreme violence, but really kind of want to know about the film and its ideas and kind of where they're coming from.
Yeah, listen to this us really shittily relay whatever the themes are of this movie.
Okay, yeah.
No, I think if you're up for a challenge, a brutality challenge, this is a good movie for that. But it also has some value beneath that, or at least some stuff to think about. It goes beyond the Hostels of the world, I would say, in terms of having a point or a point of view. But if you're not up for a challenging watch in terms of visceral reaction, then do not watch it. Don't do it. Watch a summary, listen to us bullshit about it. If it sounds like something you are not into, then you will not be into it. Because whatever we say is going to pale in comparison to the brutality on film.
Yeah, this is not the feel-good hit of the summer by any means. This is like, you put this on and you feel like doo-doo brown, and then you just feel that way until the end.
And you feel like a puddle of doo-doo brown at the end.
Yeah, liquid doo-doo brown. I had seen this movie once prior as well. Just based on its reputation, I was curious about it. It's a hard movie to get through. I wasn't really excited to watch it again. And I would recommend it if you're into the new French extremity subgenre. Like if that's something you're into, then definitely check it out. And if it's not something you're into, then don't. It is like, I guess you could compare it to a Hostel type movie, but this seems to have a point, and there's not just like, the first half isn't a softcore porn such as Hostel. So that's always a bonus. Martyrs. Let's go ahead and jump into the review. I'll drop that spoiler warning. Just to kind of start it off, if you're unfamiliar with the new French extremity like subgenre, I guess we can sort of help define it briefly. This is coming off Wikipedia here, but it's a term that was coined by an art form critic, James Quant, for a collection of transgressive films by French directors at the turn of the 21st century. Basically, like, let's see what else is on here. There's like a list of films that like you may or may not heard of some of them. They actually included Revenge, which we talked about last year, which I was kind of
French?
shocked to see that on there. Yeah.
All three dudes were French, remember?
Yeah.
I guess I remember it as being Australian, probably just because of the setting. My brain's stupid, so
even that was like what, Nevada or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it's not American. It ain't American, and it's in the desert. Must be the outback. Done.
I guess
Thanks,
Raw
brain.
is also considered one, which I was kind of shocked to see that on there too.
What is
considered
one? What did you say?
Raw? Raw.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Inside, Frontiers, Them, High Tension, Secret Things.
Man, I like a lot of these extreme movies, apparently.
Yeah, of the ones that I've seen, I think Martyrs is probably my least favorite of the 4 or 5 that I've seen anyways. Yeah, I haven't seen a bunch, but
yeah, I could see that.
I thought that was kind of shocking because Martyrs seems to be the one that gets talked about the most, I think. But yeah, this movie was like shown at the 2008 Cannes Film Festival, and everybody was sort of like blown the fuck away. Which, if you've seen it, you would understand why. Some people sort of look at it as a quote torture porn movie, or a lot of like the new French extremity like label was intended to be pejorative when it was initially used, but the filmmakers sort of like leaned into it and it like wore that title proudly, So it's I guess it kind of stuck because they did that, and I don't know if you're into that kind of thing, you're into it, and I think it's more than torture porn, I would say. Martyrs.
I would agree.
Yeah, I have some great notes that's gonna have like great discussion. Hopefully, I think, but certainly more than torture porn. I wouldn't compare this movie to like a Hostel.
No.
Yeah.
Me either.
I mean, I think they're interrelated. They certainly have elements, but there's something else. There's something else to this. But I just wanted to quick plug. If you want to know more about New French Extremity, right?
Or extremism, depends.
Yeah, extremism. There's a YouTuber named Ryan Holliger who does like horror related breakdowns and things, and he broke down the whole genre not too long ago. I would recommend watching that to just get a feel for what he's talking about, or what we're talking about rather. So
how much is he paying you, Randy?
I'm paying him. I'm a fucking patron.
I'm just kidding.
I redistribute wealth to the creators. I'm a hero is what I'm saying.
Okay.
There's a book that you can read too if you want to like really get into it, that's written by Alexandra West, who she's one half of the Faculty of Horror podcast, but it's called Films of the New French Extremity. So if you want to get some literature on the subject,
man, I need to write a book.
It's actually on Amazon. Yeah. So you can pick that up.
Cooter
You can
Hunter's
get a
Profiles
Kindle
waiting to be
version.
pinned, man. I'm optioning that particular book right now.
Number 1 Kindle book of the month.
Cooter Profile. So yeah, I guess we can kind of get into the finer points of this movie here. She starts off with a little girl like running. She's escaping her captor. So this girl is captured and seems to be tortured, and she does escape. And then there's sort of like a flash forward, and that little girl is our main character. Her and her girlfriend are essentially they believe that they found the people who kidnapped her and were torturing her when she was little, and she wants to exact her revenge and promptly does so at the beginning of this film and blasts them all to hell with a shotgun.
Yeah. And that's a pretty like surprising scene because they go through it and they're just like a normal family. They're talking about like going to college. It's a mom and a dad and like their teenage son who's the oldest and their teenage daughter. And it's just like nice kind of white house, you know, like everything's clean, pristine. And then this chick just comes, it just starts blasting their asses with a shotgun.
Yeah. That was pretty great, honestly.
Yeah.
It's really effective, not just because she's killing a family or whatever, but because the way they introduce you to this family, it comes on the heels of seeing this girl. We didn't really cover the full extent of what was going on in her childhood. She escapes and she goes to an orphanage, which is where she meets her girlfriend, and who we kind of like catch up with later after she shoots a family. But she also at one point she's found with her wrists cut a little bit, and like the girl's like, it wasn't me, I didn't do this or whatever, and that's really all the information you get. And then you just cut to this idyllic scene, and a knock on the door brings a fucking shotgun. Like, you aren't shown you don't know for sure who this is right away, you just kind of infer. And it's really shocking. You're like, holy shit, what happened? Like, so she's just broken and now she's killing people? You don't know what's going on, really. Yeah. Which I think it makes it all the more effective, is just the sheer, like, confusion it caused me.
Well, and that's even, like, this movie, to me, even though, like, to put it on paper, like, if I were going to be like, this is the first scene and, like, the sequence of events, it makes sense that way. But feeling to me, like, watching this movie, even for the second time, it feels like two different kind of movies. Like, the first half is like kind of about this girl, you see her escape, and then she's having, like, the horror behind that is she's having these like hallucinations where there's this like, so the horrific like focus is this creature that haunts her. It's like this girl, this woman or something that's all like cut up and fucked up, and like it inflicts pain on her, like it cuts her wrist, or at one point it like cuts her back. And in the first half of this movie, you're kind of following this girl, and the kind of focus is like you get the scares from that, like it's a brutal kind of imagery. You get some jump scares from it because it pops out, it like chases her around, it does like brutal things to her. And at the same time, you're also like questioning, like, is this girl sane? Like, she's just blown away this family who we see is like talking about college, and she's like, no, these are the people who tortured me, but they're in their like super nice house. And we're seeing how like the girlfriend's trying to deal with it. Like she wants to support her, but obviously like she doesn't believe her, and like she probably like shouldn't. And that's kind of like the first half of the movie to me, and that feels very different from what happens in the second half of the movie, which to me is much more like that's kind of like a regular horror kind of movie. The second half is more brutal, but it's more like philosophical. It's like brings up a bunch of ideas. And so to me, even in my first viewing and second viewing, it's felt like it's like two different movies, even though it follows like a clear path of like storytelling, like this happens, and it all makes sense together. But like the feelings to me are very different.
I agree. Like, in the first half, definitely, like when you got basically the resolution of that first half, because like you said, it's like a two-part play. Like there's a whole two arcs to this whole story, and the first arc is what you described, which is a traumatized little girl growing up and shooting a whole family in suspicion of them being, or the parents at least being, the people who tortured her as a child. She believes this and she is confident, but she also like sees things, maybe. She like clearly is being tormented by some sort of either ghostly specter or figment of her imagination. And her girlfriend, who, wants to support her and clearly is in love with her or something, she gets a call from her and says, "Where are you? Tell me the address. I'm going to come rescue you," or whatever. And she shows up and she sees all this stuff and she's really fucked up about it, obviously, but she continues to help this girl because she's in love with her or whatever. And the resolution being that the mom was still alive, she's still breathing, even though she got shot through the gut with a shotgun. And in the process of trying to bury these bodies, she wakes up, and the second girl, is it Anna is the second girl? It's Lucy is the first, is
Yeah.
the
Right,
tortured
right,
girl, right? So Lucy, is cleaning up after herself, and Anna is throwing the bodies into a pit she dug, and the mom wakes up. And so she's like, okay, well, I'm going to get you out of here. She doesn't want this person to die because she doesn't know even for sure if this is the person. And she would have called the police if it was her choice. That she makes that kind of clear subversively, because she also is dealing with a not very chill person in Lucy. And then as that's happening, Lucy catches wind of it somehow and then beats the fuck out of the mom, knocks down Anna, like knocks her on her ass, and beats the shit, breaks the head of the mom.
Mashed potatoes.
And then she starts getting turning on her friend or whatever, and then you see that monster show up again, the tortured woman creature, gremlin person, and the thing starts consoling her, and the girl's like, "See, I did it. They can't hurt you anymore," and shit like that. And then she starts cutting her wrist, but in her mind, it's the creature cutting her wrist. And we finally get a resolution in that Anna sees this happening, and it's just her. It's just Lucy cutting her own wrists. Yeah. Whatever's there is in her mind, or is at least invisible. At that point, I was a little bit mixed up about what it would.
It's guilt. It's her guilt, because we also get this scene of when she was a girl escaping her captors, like originally, like at the very beginning. One thing that we're like shown later on is that they were like in this big ass like abandoned warehouse or something, and she sees another girl. So she sees another girl who was also there and being tortured, and she like doesn't help her escape as well. She just escapes. With the idea like, I'm coming back. But by the time like the cops go back to the warehouse, the girl who was there is like gone. Like everything's gone. So it's not so. Like, it's like her guilt of like leaving that girl behind, and like she's inflicting the pain on herself. Like, how could I do this? Like, how could
it's a guilt, and it's trauma, and it's a physical embodiment of those things. Not a mental embodiment that only she can see. But she believes that other people could see it if they can just, turn around at the right time and so forth.
Yeah.
But we see her cut her.
It,
right.
They can do it.
Yeah. If I
they can spread their wings and
fly, then I can do it.
Connection there, Bob.
If I just believe it, I'll kill this bitch. Well, okay, sorry. That's a whole movie. Think of High Tension, which is to me new French Extremism. Yeah. That's ubiquitous to me. That is High Tension, and I'm okay with High Tension. It's not my favorite movie though, because I feel like it's a simple rug pull that at the time was fairly common to have sort of a twisty ending, which is, oh, everything you thought about this isn't actually accurate. It's actually this person, or actually, things like that. So that didn't really, do it for me. But I'm sitting here watching this movie, I'm like, okay, so yeah, it turns out to be exactly what you kind of suspect all along. But there's still a whole half a fucking movie here. Where the fuck is this going now? I paused it just to see what the timeline was. We were like legit almost exactly halfway through this movie. And I'm like, okay, so what happens now? We kind of got the resolution. Are we going to see this girl sort of like go crazy similarly and have her own manifestation, which would have been fine? But it goes in a completely different direction. It goes Cabin in the Woods on my ass. I did not see any shit after that thing. So here's what happens in brief. So the girl, Anna, is alive, and her friend has just killed herself. And she calls her mom just to hear her voice, sort of thing. And as she's doing that, she notices a hammer sitting on a TV stand. And the hammer sort of like falls down
before hole. Lucy was just like, when she got mad or whatever, she was just like tearing shit up. So she was like, you let her. She just starts like swinging shit around, throwing bookcases on the ground. Like, so she busts a hole in like a wall or something. Yeah,
basically, in short, she finds a hidden passageway.
Yeah.
To a basement that is like very immaculate and very
sterile. It's like a doctor's kind of
right. But it's
like
also
everything's
like
stainless
steel. Really gruesome pictures on the wall, which are some real, by the way. I don't know about all for sure, but some of those I have seen before for sure. And they're of people who are dying but not dead yet. And she goes down there. She's like, what the fuck is all this? And she finds a trap door, which she sees keys. She unlocks it, finds basically like a woman who is in every bit in as bad a shape as the demon figment of the girl's imagination that we saw.
Yeah, I
who is
forgot
all
some of those
scarred up,
scenes.
whose
Oh
eyes
my God.
has like an eye shield stapled and bolted to her skull.
head. Oh my God. When she takes that shit out, dude, oh my God. That was one of the most hard things to watch for me. I mean, we'll talk about the ending scene that's like the biggest, like, oh my God. But that, like, pulling the staples out of that girl's head, like with the flathead screwdriver, and they're like these big ass like bolt staples. Oh my God.
It was gruesome. So yeah, so like she finds this woman, and she's like, naturally, it was like, well, I gotta help this person who is definitely beyond repair and at least a few major capacities. The woman can't speak. I'm assuming her tongue was cut out, though I don't know if I saw that or not. Or she doesn't speak. And she has this eye thing on, which she brutally has to like remove staples to take off. And the girl's, oh my God, the woman's emaciated and could have been down there for years. We have no idea, and probably was. And as she's trying to help this woman sort of escape, the woman starts kind of freaking out, and she's trying to calm her down. And then in through the door walks the fucking trench-coated Matrix people who shoot this victim woman down. Yeah, and like they're coming in with their trench coats and shit, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this like, what is
the Mademoiselle?
So another Cult of Thorns situation going on here, and fucking yeah, that's what it ends up kind of being. So a whole group of people come in and they ask Anna what happens. They bring her back down and sit her down in a chair in this basement area, and the Mademoiselle shows up and explains in briefly what they do, which is they systematically torture people, primarily young women, because they're quote unquote more susceptible, in order to push them to the limits of human existence, keep them alive, but torture them enough to where they can see beyond the veil of reality or beyond the veil of life and see what lies beyond.
Yeah. So there's like two sections. So martyrs are like the ones who actually make it. So like they recognize, like, as a cult, as a religious group or whatever, they think like, you know, there's another world or another like plane of existence or whatever, and like you can obtain it or at least see it or unlock the secrets to it. But it's only some people. So like they recognize like, oh, your friend who we tortured, they either break mentally, because they talk about how they do it very slowly and each one starts to have hallucinations. So she's like, what did your friend like see? And she talks about like the girl that she saw, and the girl that they blast away that had like the staples in her head, they're like, yeah, she saw like bugs all over her body. And so they reckon like they have like this process of like kind of breaking the mind down, and they're like, it either turns to mush or you like excel beyond like the plane of existence or whatever. So it's like this whole
that's
like
what all those
religious
photos
thing.
are.
Yeah. So she goes through like this flip book of like, see, this person was a martyr. They're dying of like leukemia, but you can see like their eyes, like they're like, you know, they're not aware of their pain. Yeah,
but they are experiencing euphoria. So to my mind, as somebody who's not batshit insane, I think, oh, they're trying to push people to the point where they are just in shock. That's the whole idea. You just torture somebody into shock. Great. Cool fucking cult, guys. But yeah, they murder people systematically. Apparently there's dozens of these people. At one point we see a room full of at least 30 people just in this area who come to speak to the Mademoiselle after they have basically broken down. Yeah, I guess that's kind of jumping ahead, but Anna is broken down and beaten and has her hair cut off and is like straight up wrapped across the face all day, every day. She's eating bullshit, whatever that shit is, some sort of like high nutrition, low taste slop. Yeah. She pisses through a fucking hole in her chair, and it's just horrible. She's doing everything after trying to rescue her friend and feeling all the guilt of not believing her after finding this woman that was down there actually in that situation. Now she's in that situation. That is, I would say, probably worse than not knowing what's going to happen to you, is knowing exactly what the fuck is going to happen to you.
And Here's the thing for
when it's
me,
that
personally, there's a lot of extreme violence in this movie. You like at the beginning, you get the vision of the girl who like she cuts her wrist, she cuts her back, and that's brutal to watch. And then you get the girl who's all cut up, she's got staples in her head, like that's brutal to watch. But there's something to me, and then there's a scene we haven't even got to that's really brutal to watch. But to me, the hardest thing to watch in this movie that really like affect, like when I see like the staples, I'm like, I cringe, like I'm like, oh, that's nasty, or like, oh my God, that, you know, like that's terrible. But for like essentially like 20 minutes, you just like watch this girl who like you've like kind of floated along with, who you see is like a good person or whatever, and they just like, the worst thing, I mean, essentially, is like a dude comes down there and just like beats the shit out of her. But it's essentially like 20 minutes worth of this girl just like getting her ass beat. And not only that, but like she gets her ass beat. It just like beats her across the face. And like he's a big ass dude. And you can like see the physical difference between them. Like she's so tiny and like he's so fucking big. And he just like punches her in the face. Like, and not only that, but like it like shows like several scenes of it. Like it's not just him beating her for 20 minutes. Like they'll stop and chain her up and like feed her. And she like can't eat the food and like puke. And like her face starts to get more swollen, and then they like cut her hair, and I guess it's just like this like stripping away of like beauty, or like stripping away of like humanity. Like she's like this young, or you know, she's like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, or you know, something. And like by the end, like she's not even like recognizable, you know, like she's black and blue and yellow. And that to me, like, I guess because it felt more real, it's just like the other things like made me like squeamish, I guess, or like, oh, but like that fucking 20 minutes, man, is like just the biggest hole in your goddamn stomach. To me, I was just like, to me, of this whole movie, like that was the hardest thing to watch.
Yeah, it goes on for so much longer than I anticipated that it would, because you know the end result, right? So you're like, okay, well, there she is. I'm sure they're gonna do like, I don't know, maybe a montage or something, or just a couple minutes. But yeah, it shows him like day after day after day.
I actually
beating the shit out of this girl, and she's like knocking her out and then waking her up, and then knocking her out again and waking her up. Like
that's literal Nazi tactics, by the way. That's shit that literal Nazis did.
Yeah, it felt very like Holocausty watching it. Yeah. The way they cut her hair and they don't feed her anything, and she's it was very reminiscent of the Holocaust for sure. Difficult to watch. Should we talk about like the? Oh, you have something specific?
Well, I just wanted to add like to contradict, or not contradict, but to differentiate myself from what you guys are saying. I actually was thinking, because they were spending time with it, my like the way movies work, that section of my brain, like the part of my brain that understands movie structure, is like, okay, so they're spending a lot of time watching this torture. So at some point, she's going to take the chains around her wrist and like choke out the guard, or she's going to gouge his eyes out, or something. She's going to find some leverage, exploit it, and she's going to escape and wreak havoc on these guys. It's going to become revenge, like a revenge porn such situation.
Yeah.
So I kept kind of waiting for that to happen, or kind of at least hoping that would happen, because you want retribution for this character, and it does not come. So it had an extra gut punch once we get to the quote-unquote final stage that you're alluding to, which has the there's two people. There's a big-ass dude and a regular-sized woman who's feeding her, and a big-ass dude who's beating her or whatever. And the woman comes in and says, "You're almost done. You're in the last stage. Nobody else gets this far for them," or whatever. She says, "Very few people come this far. There's only one more thing left to do." And they lead her into the next room, which is a fucking surgical chamber. And they lay her down, sort of like they strip her nude, lay her sort of face down in this fucking gyroscopic thing, and strap her down. And she's like full on like she has in already in some way she's transcended. She started hallucinating, and she hallucinated her friend saying, "You know, the way you get through this sort of thing," because her friend had experienced it. How did you deal with this? Well, I think you just got to let yourself go and just not, you know. just accept that this is what's going to be, what it's going to be, and don't play into it, or whatever she said, something along those lines. So she's just sort of accepting, and she feels the pain. She feels all of it, but she fucking just deals with it without complaint or sound. She doesn't scream when he starts operating on her without anesthesia. And you come to find out that he is straight up flaying her alive to like every bit of skin on her body, except for her face, has been stripped from her body by the time he's done. And he straps her up and hangs her up under a bright light.
Yeah,
and
these like bright, like, oh yeah, lights, like sun tanning lights or some shit.
Yeah,
with
it's
no
horrible.
skin. Oh, it is
no
terrible.
Fucking skin, which
and
Becky was watching with me and assured me was how cadavers actually look, just not red. They're gray, but they look like that. She was like, oh yeah, that's what she was telling us right before the cats. That's what cadavers look. So good on them, I guess, for their effects, because it looked fucking realistic to me.
It does, yeah, it does, and I guess. And to me, and that's the scene that, that's the scene that when people are like talking about this movie like that's it, and it's the final scene, and essentially after that, she like does transcend, like it's shortly after that, like the people rush down there like, oh, look at her eyes. And they kind of do this little thing where there's like this other world like in her eyes that she can like see like through space or whatever.
It's like an abstraction going on.
Yeah, and then like the mademoiselle or the person in charge like comes down and like she whispers in her ear. Of course, it's not audible.
Yeah, she's like, what did you see?
Yeah,
and the girl whispers very quietly into her ear, and the woman doesn't really react in any one particular way. She's just sort of like enthralled.
Yeah.
And then they gather up all the old pieces of shit in this cult.
The squad together. And they like even do this whole thing like, we have a martyr, and she at this time she transcended the plane, and she was gone for like 2.5 hours, and she's still alive, and she told the mademoiselle everything very clearly and distinct. Like they made, and they even then the dude has a private like conversation with the mademoiselle. He's like,
through a door.
Yeah, he's like, you sure? Like, she saw it? And she's like, yeah, I'm sure. And he's like, you're absolutely sure? And she was like, everything she told me was like very clear, and like I understood. They're like, okay. So they're all like getting their jollies off. They're about to be all told they found a martyr finally.
They're about to find out what lies beyond death, which is their whole death cult bullshit.
And fucking Mademoiselle blows her fucking brains out in the next room before telling anybody.
Yeah, she says, do you believe in, what is it she says? She's like, do you believe in the world beyond? Or something like that?
She says, like, can you imagine
what lies after death?
Or what it looks like? Yeah. He's like, no, I cannot. And she says, keep doubting, and then just kills herself.
Yep. So we have a real Radiohead of an ender here.
I put that in my notes. I put that in my notes. The whole there's that Radiohead video where they just lay in the fucking sidewalk. It's like a less whimsical
Radiohead music video. This.
Yeah, and you're like, what did they say? Everybody just lays on the sidewalk. I think it's what is that song? Just. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think actually that's on our YouTube. We have a playlist of like horror music videos. I think that one's in there because it's so kind of like disturbing. It's like, what the fuck?
It's so funny. I thought of that instantly when this was happening. Me too. I was like, okay, so we're lying down in the street, just like in that fucking Radiohead video, where we as the audience don't know what they said, because if we knew, we would be lying on the street too. So the implication being that whatever information was passed from the martyr Anna to the mademoiselle is so impactful or so spurnful or so something that it breaks her ability to continue living, or breaks her ability to exist in the way that she was before, and not in a positive way. It doesn't seem like.
Well, I love
not necessarily, but
not necessarily. I love that this movie ends this way, and here's why. And I love their decision to make it religious based, but I wrote down the dark, horrific irony of this like whole situation is that from the people standpoint in the cult, like they didn't get their answer. And even like the idea of like, oh, it was so terrible that the mademoiselle blew her brains out, but just that dark curiosity of not knowing, the implication is the others in the cult aren't going to stop. So now they just have to find themselves a new, and they've said like, oh, for the past 16 years, like we haven't had a martyr or whatever. Like this is the first one. So now like the whole religious based thing and like only the Mademoiselle hearing what happened and there only being like a handful of martyrs and girls have to be tortured to get there. It's like, that's the terrible ending of this film is, well, yeah, the Mademoiselle like blew her brains out, but even that like warning sign is not going to stop this cult. Like they're religious based. It's more about their curiosity. They're right, or like they need to know, and they're going to continue like kidnapping and torturing girls until somebody else finds out and blows their fucking brains out, and then somebody, like it's brilliant to do because it's just one last fucking gut punch. It's like, this is never gonna fucking stop.
If the question I have is like, if what she heard was so horrible, like if the afterlife is that bad, why would she be in such a fucking hurry to get there?
Well, that's why I didn't get the implication that it was bad, because maybe it was like good, or maybe it was like, oh, it's good, not, or like,
but
or like
she
kill
said
yourself.
to the guy.
Yeah. See, if she didn't say keep doubting and look the way she did not look excited to go. You know what I'm saying? She looked pretty broken and sad. She was like,
you can interpret it that way, but I agree. Like the idea that she has dedicated her life to this. She finally got everything she wanted, and she kills herself without telling all of her friends about it.
I
and
guess
just, I mean, but at the same time, if she really if it really was such a gut punch that it was like, oh, I did all this for nothing, or oh, like what lies beyond is more terrible, and I deserve to go there for torturing people, then why would she not then tell the group, we need to stop this forever, don't ever do this again, and then blow her brains out? She doesn't. So it's left hanging in the air like that, just the way it ought to be, because that's a definitive answer that we can't have.
You can't, and that's the brilliance of it. Is like, we're like, what could she have possibly said? It's like there's no answer you could say, because it's like you're talking about another realm of existence. But that's like the whole thing
as a filmmaker.
Well,
but then you're putting yourself in a corner, and like philosophically,
you're just thinking like, what could she have possibly what's so terrible that she'd like want to blow her brain? And that's the whole idea. That's the brilliance of it. It's like your mind wants to, you can't help but wonder, like, what was it? What could it possibly be? And you come out with these scenarios like, oh, like it's just your brain. Like it's like it's this, like the irony of the curiosity. It's like you're doing what the cult would be doing. Like they want to know, like regardless, it's like they have dedicated their lives. They don't care about beating the shit out of or like skinning them alive. Their whole thing is to know, and they were just had that ripped away. And like you're doing like kind of the same thing as them, like in a like your
in a
curiosity,
sense, but you're not in control.
But, and also the kind of ironic thing is, should they find out what the Mademoiselle found out, they would likely just kill themselves anyways. So if that's the end result, just fucking kill yourself then. If that's gonna happen anyway, just do it, or stop.
This Mademoiselle is clearly she is clearly a higher up in this organization. And if it's like saying, okay, I'm in a football club, but I'm like I'm a minor player, I sit on the bench most of the time, and this fucking guy on the field gets his ass hurt, and he's like, I'm never playing again because I just found out what the dangers really are. And like, do you want to play anymore? Why would you want to play anymore if you really want to just end up the way that guy does, go hurt yourself? That's a bad example, but you see somebody else.
Well, it's a tale as old as time. Yeah, I mean, old people constantly like, it's the older generation, like, oh, listen here, like they've been there. But then the younger, it's like, well, I want to experience it for myself. Like, that might have been your experience. It's like,
even if Gramps can't handle it, I can figure it out.
All these people are like, they seem to be older, well-to-do people, so maybe they want to know so badly because they're sort of on their way out anyways. They only have a few years left to live. And also, that makes it even more ironic. Like, if you know you're just going to die in a couple years anyways, I mean, just wait or kill yourself. Like, just
you really want to know what lies after death? You can kill yourself. That's
that's making it religious based is the most like believable thing, because you're like it makes it like people do crazy extreme things for religion, like making it religious based, I think was a brilliant move, because it's the whole, and even the idea is intriguing to me, because like like people like take drugs and they have these brief moments of like extreme highs, and then they have these like long moments of like extreme lows, and the whole thing is like chasing the high. So like couldn't you say like an inverse? Like I took a note, like one time in college, me and Rob just stopped eating for 3 days. We were like, we're gonna stop eating. We did a fast for 3 days, and we're like, we're not gonna fucking eat anything, and it sucked. It fucking sucked. But the goal was, at the end of it, we were gonna make this huge ass fucking breakfast, and we fucking did. And the thing was, though, before we ate the baller ass breakfast, it was like the biggest fucking breakfast you've ever seen. Anything delicious you can imagine. The first thing I ate, though, was a piece of white fucking, or just like a piece, not like a whole, like just like a piece off of just plain ass white bread, dude. White fucking bread. And it was one of the most delicious fucking things I'd ever tasted, because I just stopped fucking eating for 3 days, which was miserable. So like I kind of understand like this whole idea of like you're gonna be in this extreme low for so long, and the lower we make it, the higher the high is going to be, even though you're only going to be like in that high for like, they're like, oh, she was there for like 2.5 hours, and they make it seem like, oh my God, I can't believe 2.5 hours. That's so long. But like, so that idea, like it makes some sense. Like, I mean, or like it.
Yeah, there's a logic to it, but it's a terrible logic, and it's
absolutely,
like,
it's absolutely terrible. But it's like still has to, like, it kind of resonates. You're like I don't know.
I mean, I understand the logic behind it too. Yeah, like you said, the lower the trench, the higher you transcend or whatever. But the idea that, I don't know, it pushes it into this territory. The closest thing to a philosophical answer that we get is nihilism, I think, from this movie, which is whatever lies at the end of the road is something you fucking don't have any business knowing. You have no fucking business knowing. It's probably fucking nothing, and nothing you do will fucking matter. So why not kill yourself? Shit, like that's
yeah.
There's a strong thread of that going through this movie, and no matter how much you torture yourself, no matter how high the elation, even Anna, the woman who is the martyr and who they've placed all this importance on and who has achieved what very few have, even she is going to fucking cart herself off this mortal plane and go into nothingness. Like, that's the presumption to nothingness at best is what it's looking like to me. So, like, it doesn't matter how, to me, I see it as like, this whole movie is to point out that whatever pain that you experience in life is going to be with you in life. And it doesn't, like, what happens at the end of your life is not going to change that. It's the same thing that happens to Lucy at the beginning. Like, even after she murders the people who transgressed against her, even after she gets her revenge, she doesn't get to stop being a broken person. She doesn't, like, it's not Mario where the princess is saved and everybody goes happy. That's this movie doesn't allow those sort of happy endings to happen. She's going to carry that weight forever. Like, not to Beatles this up or anything, but she is. So, like, and so she decides realizing this, there's no point in fucking being on this plane anymore. The only chance she has of escaping it is to see what's on the other side of the veil and killing herself in the process. Yeah. So, and then at the end of the movie, we find out that even beyond that veil, there's no freedom from it. At best, you will not be an entity anymore. At best.
Yeah. Well, and also to like the religious base and like kind of like the nihilistic view, like you said at the end. One of the things too, not only just like you're fucked in the end, but one of the things that like kind of is just another gut punch. This fucking movie's full of them. Is, to me too, and this kind of, we were mentioning this like in a What You've Been Watching, like people's focusing on like Ted Bundy, and like you grow up and you go to schools and like you watch the Holocaust, and like people not being able to process that, like, no, this can't be real, or people, denying the Holocaust or something like that, but basing this in like a religious thing, and like just and the sound kind of logic, like it can resonate with me, like I understand the logic behind it. One of like the kind of last kind of gut punches I'm left with is, one of the worst things about this movie is like in myself is I can believe that sort of thing could happen, or like even though it's like an extreme concept, like, oh, they skinned somebody alive, and somebody could like say like, no, that would never happen. But the thing is like we're filled every day with like these like you can watch on Netflix.
That does happen.
Like, yeah, that people like kidnap people and eat them and like and do terrible things to them. And so like the idea, it's like I'm watching these terrible things, like I'm watching them happen, and I'm feeling like, oh my God, like they're beating the shit out of this girl, they're cutting her hair, they're like skinning her alive, they're stapling her head. And like the whole time I'm thinking like, even though this is like some of the worst things I've ever seen, it's not out of the realm of possibility of happening in reality to me in life. And that's so terrible. Like, that's such a terrible revelation of myself to think that. And like, you kind of want to go back to this idea of like ignorance is bliss, kind of like you don't even want to know sometimes. It's just like, and then Randy's like, it's cathartic, you know, you watch it and you're like, yeah, this happened. And it's like, oh, kind of a warning sign, a cautionary tale. But like, as like a human being.
This movie I wouldn't characterize that way.
Well, no, but as a human being, you're just like, God damn it. Like, fuck, you know, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer.
I mean, go ahead.
We need to probably go and rate this thing. Do you guys have anything else specific you want to mention before we do that?
Cinematography is great. Acting is great. Effects are great. I mean, on a craft level, I don't see many problems with this movie. The most holes you can poke in it are like continuity errors, or not errors, but like things that don't make logical sense. But because this movie is so high-minded and philosophical by the end, a lot of those things don't matter because it's in service of a point. So, like for example, Lucy having cuts all over her back from this demon creature. At that point, I was like, oh, so I guess this thing's real, because could you even cut your own back that way? Yeah. And I guess you can within the world of the movie, but it didn't make sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, so I guess not. At one point I thought, okay, so maybe, you know, once we found this woman in the basement, I thought, okay, maybe this woman without her sight, maybe they're entrapping clairvoyant people, and that's who was attacking Lucy, was a woman's like out-of-body experience going into the further, what I like to call the further, and finding a savior. I didn't know. So like, I don't know. I think that's worth noting, that like you can see little things like that might like frustrate me on like a beat for beat basis, but because it's all in service of something grander, I let it slide pretty much universally, those little things. There's not a lot of them either. So
yeah. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and rate this thing out of 5. Randy, you were already kind of leading into it. Why don't you kick us off out of 5? How do you feel about Martyrs?
Yeah, I guess I did. I basically just gave my spiel on it. I think it's a very interesting fucking movie. For me, the torture aspect is tough to watch, but not so much so that I couldn't get through it or anything like that. I think, like I said, the acting is great. I actually really love that it's like a story in 2 parts, where you get sort of like the earthbound carrying of pain, and then the natural conclusion of enforcing the most pain you possibly can on somebody, and seeing, you know, how they cope with it. Those ideas sort of like enmesh with each other in a way that I thought was really interesting. It's a huge fucking bummer, this movie. and it's difficult to get through emotionally and psychologically and fucking on a visceral level. So I think it achieves every goal it sets out to achieve. And if I had any complaints, I'm really having trouble coming up with them right now. So I don't know. I think maybe my biggest complaint is that it's pretty fucking bleak, and that is sort of leading in terms of like, while it does leave things kind of wide open at the end, it's not so wide open. They sort of narrow the scope to something horrible as seen. I think it's pretty clear that that's the conclusion that we're to draw, is that whatever she was told by this quote unquote martyr, whatever the mademoiselle was told, was something that she did not expect to hear and did not want to hear, because if she expected to hear it, she wouldn't have gathered all these fuckers there to hear her shoot herself in the next room. So there's an implication that whatever's beyond is worse or bad or not worth going to or whatever. So whatever hope you have for the afterlife is pretty much shot in this fucking movie after all of the torture that you endure vicariously through your characters. So it's a gut punch, and I would say it's a 4.75 for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very high.
It's not a movie I want to rewatch that often, though. Let's put that
no.
out there. It's not a rewatch.
Hell no. Juice, how do you feel out of 5?
I actually feel pretty similar to Randy in that same kind of points. I think it is a well done movie that's really difficult to watch, but really fun to talk about and really interesting to like ponder the aspects of it to me. So I'm glad we were kind of like made to watch it again and talk about it again. It's another one of those like I don't want to watch it again, but at the same time, like if I had to, like I wouldn't bitch about it. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, you know, like oh I gotta watch Martyrs again. Yeah, it's just like you gotta know, like fuck me, you know, like I'm gonna be bummed out for a while. But one thing I didn't mention too, and I didn't pay attention for a lot of it, but during like the beating scene and like when they're cutting her hair, there's some really good use of soundtrack. Like it like really made it the sinking even more effective, like the terrible. And I'm not sure if that was used even more like throughout the movie. It just in that particular scene, it really stuck out to me because I was already just like really, really, really sad. And but then like the music kind of even like I just kind of like picked up on it. I am not giving a half star for Yabos in this.
I was going to
movie.
ask you that.
I am not.
Good
going to ask
man.
you. You're revising your Yabo stance in
I am
light
not
of the Martyrs.
giving a half star. You cannot torture boobies and give half stars. That is not.
Man's got to have a code.
At one point, like that one chick who had staples in her head, she had like half a breast like cut off her. It was like, oh, it was all like, oh, it was terrible. Anyways, no. And really the thing for me is it's going to come down to personal preference. Like I think this movie's done well, and I'm not going to give it a 5-star. And what's going to kind of keep it from that is the two halves of the movies, and I don't even know how to fix it, but it does like stand out to me. Like the first half feels like a traditional kind of maybe like schlocky kind of gory horror movie where you get some jump scares, you got a creature and it comes crawling down the thing, and then the second half just totally feels different. And like there's a weird disconnect for me when I'm even thinking about this movie where I'm like, God, they feel so different, and even the sequences feel like disjointed, like like the beginning scenes where they're girls and then the blowing people away scenes and hiding the bodies, like it all just has such different feels that like kind of feels off to me. That paired with just what a total bummer of a movie this is, and so brutal to watch. Even I was gonna say, I didn't even mention the whole skinning scene, like on a visceral level, and maybe by that point I was just so beaten down like emotionally that I was just like, oh, she's skinned alive, like, oh yeah. There's her body or whatever.
It's weird that your experience like as a viewer sort of mirrors hers, where it's like
you
give up
like,
on
fuck
any
it. Yeah,
you just kind of accept, okay, well the worst thing that you can think of, that's what's happening next. Oh
yeah,
that's
because because I was so broken down like by the beating and the 20 minutes of torture that I like by the time that came I was like, like that is kind of weird that it mirrors that. But so it's just so hard to watch just overall. So I'm going to give it a 4-star though. I think it's a great movie and I love the ideas it brings up, but it's hard to recommend because like I said, you'd feel like a weirdo being like, hey, watch Martyrs. You really need to watch Martyrs. And people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Are you ready to hate life?
Yeah. So, but I thought it was a good movie.
Cool. So I've said this before. The way I kind of like to try and rate movies is sort of like a two-parter. So like one, basically like how successful do I think the filmmaker was in creating his vision? Like, did he achieve what he was trying to achieve? Is his message coming across? And like the technicality and all that shit. And then also just like my general level of enjoyment, what I was able to take from it. This movie is like, it's got the like torture porn elements in it, but it's definitely like posing a question, and it's sort of like forcing you to kind of meditate on like the afterlife and ponder, I guess, like the extreme horrible things that people have done and people are willing to do in order to maybe get answers in the name of what they believe in, whatever that belief is, And it's just like so brutal and so unenjoyable and like gross. And it's like throughout the entire goddamn movie, there's not like a single drop of levity in this whole movie. And I just hate watching it. I really get zero enjoyment out of it. It is well made though. And I would not call it a torture porn. It does have more thought put into it than just that. And it is well made. It's like you feel like, I mean, you're kind of put through the damn ringer. Like you definitely feel the the emotions that the girls are feeling as you're watching the movie. You're kind of like right there with them, and as they break, you break, and you just sort of like. The best part of the movie is when it fucking ends, man. It's you finally get that little bit of relief, that sigh of relief. You're like, holy shit.
That's like life, Bob. That's like life. You're just beaten down until you're finally
and then
relieved.
you're dead. And then you're dead.
You know? And then you don't have to feel it anymore.
And then finally, sweet, sweet relief.
I know a man who once said I've never felt a thing in my life, so I can kind of relate to your sentiment.
That's interesting. I'd like to meet that man.
That boy, and that man's name was Drunk as Shit Bobby.
Yeah, drunk off my face. But yeah, overall, I don't know that the questions that the movie is posing are really all that deep, and I don't know that the ends justify the means. In my opinion, like, yeah, you got to watch some heinous stuff, and you do have some stuff that you kind of need to wrestle with come the end of the movie, but it's not like that. It's not deep enough. It's not like it didn't make me go, oh, in the way I feel like it should have. And the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me, man. I wouldn't really watch this movie again if I could avoid it. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Which is a bit lower than you fellas. It's going to put our aggregate at a 3.75, which is still pretty favorable. So let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Martyrs. Take it away, Juice.
All right, so let's hop into it. Small sample size on Martyrs. Of the critics counted, there are 33 critic counts. So let's go around the table. Let's try. I think this might be a tough one for you guys. I don't know. Like, how do you rate a movie like this? Like, I guess we just did, but so yeah. So let's find out. Randy, kick us off. 33 reviews counted. What do you think they rated this movie?
Well, I know there's a schism with New French Extremity in general and torture porn, which some people equate with New French Extremity. So, I mean, I gotta think it's, I don't know, but this movie is also heralded as like the poster child apparently of this genre. So I'm gonna go with Bob's sort of. Bob is my inspiration. I'm gonna go 50%.
All right, Bob, what do you think?
In the true spirit of straight chilling.
Oh,
since
God.
Randy already took 50%, I'll go with the 69.
69. Ooh, I don't know if it's the week for 69, Bob. It's too, the levity there. You can't have a drop of it. So.
That's true. You can't laugh. No laugh.
Randy is going to take it.
Hey.
Very close. It is 55%, which is still considered rotten. I guess 60% is fresh or whatever.
I think so.
But so average rating too is pretty close to that, is a 5.6 out of 10. So almost spot on with the 55, which is not always the case. So of the 33 critic reviews counted, 18 are fresh, 15 are rotten, with the critic consensus a real polarizing movie. This Gallic torture porn is graphic, brutal, nasty, and gruesome, and not to everyone's taste. Yeah,
that's accurate.
That is one of the most accurate. Like, yeah, I mean, even from the real polarizing movie, and it really comes to like, you can't knock Bob for being like, it's hard. It's hard to be like. Nobody really should want to watch this movie, but it has merit, it has value. It just, is it enough? Like, are
you willing to wade through the muck to get to the value?
That's do you think the juice is worth the squeeze? So, split 55%. So, let's get into the audience score. Still pretty low. 12,000. So for the audience score, not too bad for, I guess, a French Extreme movie, but 12,000 reviews counted from the Oozers. Rob, you get to pick first this time.
The Oozers. I feel like if you're going to go out of your way to rate this movie, you probably like it a decent amount. I don't know. I'm going to go, this might be a little high, but I think I'm going to go with like a 70.
70? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've neglected a 69 on that.
I know.
That's a
Yeah,
set.
I'm
Well,
gonna
like
go,
1 point off.
I'm going to go 1 point off. I got
You're
one.
not going to double dip. You're not going to double dip on the
Well, I think your reasoning is sound, so I'm gonna do what's right here and guess 69.
and,
Shit.
and with that, of course, Randy makes the right choice. Randy makes the right choice. He's going to steal it away from Bob because it was 68%. Rob had it stolen away from the old Straight Chillin' Special 69. Yep, 12,000 people rated this movie. It got a 68% with an average rating 3.6 out of 5. So what was ours? 3.75?
375, yeah.
Hey, men of the people, Straight Chillin' Crew. You know it. We know it. Everyone knows it.
We all know.
We all know.
Efficient
Let me tell you if you don't know, we're men of the people.
We're the least efficient version of Rotten Tomatoes. Just listen to us for an hour instead of
yeah, there you go. We're the
You got time.
Exactly. So let's try to knock out our cooter talk real quick.
Oh, that's right. Let me drop it. Let's do it.
So one thing I appreciate about this movie is they could have easily, and they didn't, add in the sexual factor. I was like, they could easily like this big ass dude beating the shit out of this girl, like easily like be raping her, and they don't. So thank God for that. Like, because I don't know if I could have also thrown that in. Like, I would just been like, God damn it. Like, so the sexual deviancy on anyone in this movie is pretty much like gone. So that's something, you know. That's
the silver lining of the movie.
Hey,
at least
nobody gets raped in this movie.
Good God, what a silver lining.
Just skinned alive.
That's all.
So I don't know. I mean, there's the people in this movie are just of the worst kind of people you could try to write, you know, for a movie. But is there a cooter though? Is there a cooter? I mean, I guess really the only thing you could say.
I don't think we get to know our villains well enough to call that specifically. They're certainly fucking the worst people that have ever lived. Maybe like Marquis de Sade level evil.
They all kind of have the inflated sense of ego.
Oh,
you know?
the pomp is so there.
I think they all have that going on. I think the Mademoiselle specifically, her attire is a little nuts in the butts.
That's true.
Maybe, yeah.
And
they do kind of look like Matrix people right away.
Yeah, and if she's the leader, potentially she's like manipulating her followers to, you know, we don't really see that, but it could be there. You know, she's like the leader of the fucking cult.
You'd have to like
manipulative.
You'd have to like retcon, or you'd have to side story. You'd have to solo a Star Wars story that shit to find out.
Mademoiselle.
Yeah. And I think even the choice of making the leader a woman, because even though like the things they're doing are terrible, like she is able to pull this off with, there is like some pompous, like we know we're like kind of right kind of thing, but it's like doesn't have the smug arrogance of like if a man maybe were playing that part and trying and like giving this spiel to her with, you know, kind of like the like of a cult leader, because it almost like does seem like genuine, even though it's terrible.
Yeah, I think she believes what she's saying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and not even like in an arrogant way to where like I'm gonna teach you to like, or you know, it's just like, no, this is how it is, and so sorry you're gonna get tortured, but like,
let
me explain why you're gonna get tortured. And then we'll get to the torturing, the thing you're all here to see.
So there's not really a whole lot of smug arrogance behind it. I mean,
I think the attire
not in the delivery.
I don't know.
Yeah, not in the delivery, but it is. I think it's arrogant to assume that you know how to see the aspect.
Sure, yeah, but is it smug arrogance?
Oh,
I don't know,
Justin. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I guess
Mademoiselle's-
really of the people that we're introduced to, we don't spend a lot of time with them. So the Mademoiselle would be the closest, but I don't think she.
I think there's a difference between a villain and a cooter, right? Just inherently.
See, I
For
think
sure.
if like the Mademoiselle was played by a man, like it could have easily gone like Jeremiah, or like they could have really like smarmied it up, with the delivery and like telling it. But she plays it pretty straight, so I don't think I'm gonna designate.
It's very matter of fact with her. Like this is just how it goes.
Maybe the French don't know about the cooter yet. Maybe we need to educate them. I wonder if there's a French term for cooter. We need to.
Anybody who is still listening to us who is French can tell us what the equivalent of a cooter is. Oh, you pulled from that real deep well of French things,
I am very cultured. I know.
Rob, Napoleon Dynamite's not French. That's an American-made film.
He was.
But he can throw a football over mountains.
That's culture.
No, that's Uncle Rico.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back in my day, I could throw a football quarter mile.
Now that's a cooter. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
That is a good cooter right there.
Yeah.
Uncle fucking Rico.
What if Uncle Rico was the cult leader in this movie? Kind of a different movie.
That would have been the levity Bob was looking for.
Thank God.
I probably would have enjoyed that. Just throwing footballs in the front yard.
Dude, Uncle Rico and Tommy Wiseau need to get together. They need to make a movie. They need to make a movie.
But I love that you frame it that. Need to
I
make
don't know that
the Uncle Rico story directed by Tommy Wiseau. I would watch the fuck out of that.
100%.
I would pay money for that.
That needs to
I would
happen.
GoFundMe shit.
All right, let's get into a little bit of trivia. Take it away, Randy.
Now, when you say a little bit of trivia, you are right. There is not a ton that I found. There is sort of some adjacent trivia that I want to cover, but I'll start with the quick points here that I found immediately. Pascal Laugier, I think is how you pronounce it. Pascal Laugier has stated that he was inspired by Hostel, but instead of making a movie about suffering, he wanted to make a movie about pain, which the difference, I guess, is fairly negligible, but the result is different, so I guess he had a point in some capacity. I guess it's sort of about carrying around pain as opposed to, like, in general, like in life, as opposed to just being tortured, just cause. Anyway, Pascal Laugier has confessed that he wrote the screenplay of this film in a state of clinical depression bordering on suicidal thoughts, which is why the film is said to have a nihilistic and depressing subject matter. So that clarifies a whole lot, I think.
That makes a lot of sense.
That makes a ton of sense. Of course the director was clinically depressed making this fucking movie. If you weren't before you started making it, you certainly were during.
Yeah.
And probably
I don't
after.
know how.
Like, how do you
just
work without becoming fucking depressed?
Yeah.
Yeah. In Pascal Laugier's previous film, House of Voices, the main character is called Anne Jurin. In Martyrs, Anna is one of the female lead characters' names, whilst Lucy Jurin is the other. So it's a little nod to his previous film. Okay. And also, Blu-ray copies of Martyrs have been discontinued in Region 1, which is the American region, American area. So they do not really make this. Like, I had to get it on Amazon Prime, so it's available that way, like through streaming, through purchase, of course. But or no, it was Vudu I bought it on.
Through digital media, you say?
Digital.
Physical media is not dead, Justin.
So yeah, that's sort of like the real quick
Just
stuff.
Getting martyred, huh, Bob?
This is
God.
This is sort of an adjacent piece of trivia about Pascal. Let me find the tab here. Okay, so he also created a movie called. Oh no, I lost it.
That's a weird title for a movie.
Yeah, it is a weird title. No, he created a movie called Ghostland, Ghostland. I forgot.
Incident in the Ghostland.
Incident in the Ghostland, which I know nothing about. The poster is all I've seen, and it's literally of a girl sort of broken like a porcelain doll might be, and just a big face that's broken, which is sad and ironic considering this piece of trivia. So Pascal was directing actress Taylor Hickson for this film. Who was 19 at the time. And I don't know what it's about again, but he was directing her to slam her head harder and harder into some sort of
remember
glass,
that. Yeah.
plate glass, which was, I guess, supposed to be not breakable. She fucking broke it, and
Damn.
it has
Cut
been
her
like cut her face up. There's pictures of it, like then and now, and like they did as much as they could to sort of like conceal it, but she's got a permanent fucking scar, so she is suing.
Scar on her face. She's like a young actress. Yeah,
she's 21 now, but she was 19 at the time of filming. So what the fuck? Like a beautiful young actress, like it's mangled because somebody didn't put the right glass in. Like, yeah, she's suing the producers over a disfiguring injury, as reported by Deadline. So, I mean, she's still working. She's still getting work. She was in Deadpool, apparently, but I don't recall her specific character. Not a huge role, I don't think. But, yeah, she got fucked up. And Pascal isn't directly named in the lawsuit, which is interesting because the way it's described on Deadline is he was directing her at the time. He was the one telling her to hit harder and harder. Yeah. And she asked somebody on set whether or not it was going to break. She's like, "Is this isn't going to break, is it?" And they're like, "No, just hit it harder, hit it harder." Fucking fucked her face up, man. Like that's a young actress. That's in Hollywood. That's worth a lot of fucking comeuppance. I mean, yeah, I'm for her in that case. And as much as I enjoyed this movie, and I'm curious to see more from Pascal, I just don't know. I mean, that's just a real bummer and a sea of bummers. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that.
Sea of bummers, yeah.
And it's like in case there was not enough shit to bum you out in relation to this guy's movies, here you go with a real life story of a girl. It's just fucked up, man.
One last kick to the nuts.
It's not too bad if you've never felt a thing in your life, though. So
here we go.
Oh man, you're really feeling that, huh, Bob?
Don't let other people make your drinks. That's what I learned that night.
I gotta bring that up it's probably been a couple years since that's come up.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson, but I learned it.
I do feel things. Who knew? Yeah, so that's it for trivia, really. Like I said, there wasn't a ton.
Okay. Let's round it out with some horror news. Are you gentlemen familiar with that Psycho documentary? It's called 78/52.
I am not.
No.
It's a documentary. It's actually on Hulu if you want to watch it. It's pretty interesting. It's specifically about the shower scene in Psycho. They interview a bunch of people about it. I guess I'm trying to remember what the two numbers stand for now. It was like 78 takes and 52 cuts or something like that. I never realized there were that many cuts in that one specific scene.
Good Lord.
But there's a ton
in
the shower scene
in Psycho.
Yeah, that makes sense.
52 cuts?
Yeah, it's either 78 cuts or 52 cuts. I forget which number is which. But they kind of dive into how that scene was crafted and like why it was so influential and like what scenes throughout history it's directly influenced. And they interview like Jamie Lee Curtis and all these other actors and and filmmakers and stuff. Anyway, it's a pretty interesting documentary. It's on Hulu. I mentioned that specifically to mention that the director, whose name is Alexander O. Felipe, he's directed a couple other documentaries actually. A more recent one is going to be coming out. It's about Alien. I don't think it's actually released yet, but it is. So they just had the opening night screening of. It's called Memory: The Origins of Alien. They just had the screening at Sundance, and as he was showing that for the first time, he announced that he's making a new documentary. This time it's going to be about the making of The Exorcist. So he's got Alien. I imagine you'll be able to watch the Alien one later this year. I'm sure it'll get some sort of release. And then I guess he's already shot the Exorcist one actually, and that'll probably come out next year. I don't know. Who knows? But if it's anywhere near as interesting as the Psycho documentary, I think it'll definitely be worth checking out. I guess he interviews William Friedkin, and I'm sure several other actors, filmmakers and whatnot, because The Exorcist is obviously just as influential as Psycho, I would say. But I don't know. You guys, would you be interested in checking out any of these documentaries?
Sure, I like watching this sort of thing. Like I brought up Ryan Hollinger earlier because he's I don't know on the same level or what, but like I like sort of like immersing yourself in one very minute detail of cinema, especially horror stuff, because it makes me feel like I'm actually doing this with some knowledge behind my brain, which is absolutely not the case. But yeah, I'll check that out. I'd be interested to know more, especially like Psycho. Yeah, that's so immeasurably iconic that it's so fucking important in terms of horror history that yeah, of course I would.
Yeah. I don't. It is interesting. It's not something that like really like I'm rushing off to see. Yeah. There's like so many documentaries now these days. It's like I don't know. Sometimes I just want a little fiction in my life. I need to take a break.
You watch this little documentary called Game of Thorns? It's really good.
About to wrap it
House
up.
of
The old
Thorns?
Game of Thorns. Crown of Thorns.
House of Corns.
That's gonna be like the religious version or whatever they got. They always gotta do those like knockoff shows or whatever. It should be Crown of Thorns.
T-shirts. It's probably just gonna be a mall kiosk T-shirt in the Heartland.
Gracious. We also watched a couple trailers wanted to talk about. The first one's for a movie called Nightmare Cinema, which is a horror anthology that was created by Mick Garris. It's got 5 shorts with 5 different directors, one being directed by Mick Garris, Joe Dante, David Slade, Raihi Kitamaru, and Alejandro Brujes. Anyway, the trailer looks pretty interesting. It looks like the wraparound segment is there's some sort of a movie theater that's showing these shorts, and there's a guy who's like up in the booth changing the reels, and it's played by fucking Mickey Rourke, which is kind of interesting.
Mickey.
Yeah, he's the curator, I guess, putting these shorts together. And the little clips that you see in the trailer, it looks like they look pretty solid. Like I was a little bit surprised. I don't know what the budget is. I'm sure it probably wasn't quite that much, but it looks like there's some decent production value in them. I don't know, like the last couple of anthologies I feel like I've seen were ultra low budget, and I guess I was just expecting this to sort of follow suit. But it looked relatively well crafted. It's got some pretty big names too, Mick Garris and Joe Dante. I don't know. What did you guys think about the trailer?
I gotta say, at first I was really, really disappointed, mainly because I thought they were finally making our movie about our resident serial killer, Drew, who is a projectionist. I was like, oh, we getting a horror movie about a projectionist? And then it turned out to be an anthology, and I was like, well, god damn it. They like teased me with that. It's like, oh man, this is the Drew story right here. But alas,
I gotta say, like, it seems like there's a lot of components here that I'm interested in, but it didn't leave a big impression on me, to be honest. The trailer, maybe it was just too, and I know it's like the nature of a fucking anthology. Promoting an anthology has got to be difficult work, but I just didn't really get a sense of what it's going for. I can't tell if it's going for fucking, I don't know, like a. What is that, fucking Dusk Till Dawn sort of thing, or if it's going more serious than that? It's kind of confusing me in terms of tone. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure whether I'd want that either one of those. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I found a little blurb that kind of specifies exactly what the movie is about. It says a series of down-on-their-luck individuals enter the decrepit and spine-chilling Rialto Theater, only to have their deepest and darkest fears brought to life on the silver screen by the projectionist, a mysterious ghostly figure who holds the nightmarish futures of all who attend his screenings. By the time our patrons realize the truth, escape is no longer an option, for once the ticket is torn, their fate is sealed at Nightmare Cinema. So yeah, I guess there is like a spooky projectionist. He's not just a normal dude. I don't know. I'm intrigued enough to watch it. I like Mick Garris. I like his movies, and also he's got a podcast that I listen to on occasion called Postmortem, and he just seems like such a genial person, like the coolest uncle that you could have almost. I don't know. He seems like a neat guy. So I'm down just because he's attached to it, honestly.
Yeah, I think it has potential. Like you said, like between Joe Dante and Mick Garris, who are people that I'm familiar with, it listed some of the credentials of the other directors, but not all of them are films I've seen. So, but between those two, like that's enough to get me sitting in front of a screen and watching this thing for sure. I just don't know for sure what I'm in for.
Yeah, I hear you. We also checked out another trailer. Speaking of Ted Bundy earlier, this movie is called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is the, I guess, fictional version of Ted Bundy. I don't think it has a solid release date yet, but it has kind of an interesting cast. Zac Efron is going to be portraying Ted Bundy. It's also got John Malkovich in it, Haley Joel Osment, which is interesting. I don't know why. I always get a kick out of like adult Haley Joel for some reason. But
He's just doing his thing.
He is doing his thing. I like him. He seems like a cool guy. I was a little bit surprised that like Zac Efron seemed to be doing a decent job in the trailer. Anyways, he seems like a decent casting decision.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, damn, Zac Efron.
I mean,
pretty solid,
if you're gonna cast Ted Bundy, like his whole shtick, like if you're to distill down the serial killers into a elevator pitch, he's the handsome, charming, everyday Republican fucking serial killer who murders people for the fun of it or whatever. Like he's the looker. He's the guy who conceals it so well that nobody even believes it once they're told.
Yeah,
so
he's the waspy, turtleneck wearing, VW bug driving guy you take home to meet mama and have meatloaf.
If the whole idea, like if this idea that has resurged because of the documentary about Ted Bundy about women finding him attractive or just people finding him attractive, I guess, like that's if that's like what you're.
Oh, Randy.
See ya.
Whoa, internet problem.
I said.
I said to see ya.
I said to see you.
So anyway, he's a good choice. It's a good choice.
Yeah.
You're gonna pick how quickly he hot back in.
Yeah, that was real quick. Good job.
The internet cut out for like a second. But,
you usually like pause for longer than that. Like pause wise robot.
I was kicked from the room. That doesn't usually happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, technical issues aside, I think it's a good cast. I mean, you're gonna have a sex symbol so that people feel like
horny.
Yeah. So people can feel like conflicted about like I wish I wasn't attracted to this piece of shit.
Yeah.
As it should be.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't mention this prior, but the same director, Joe Berlinger, who directed the Ted Bundy tapes, also directed this movie, which is kind of interesting. So he's all up in Ted Bundy's business. Yeah.
That's interesting because I was gonna praise that documentary and sort of not shit on this trailer or anything, but I feel like the tone of this trailer is another like tone issue to me. Like if the movie is as lighthearted feeling as this, then I think that's where we get into the quagmire we were talking about earlier of like, are we stopping like being like grotesquely interested in a piece of shit and starting to glorify him a little bit, even if it's on accident? Like, I don't know where that line is. I don't think we as a society have decided where that line is, or if we have, we certainly haven't committed to it. So for me, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. This feels a little like, it feels like they're going for a Coen Brothers feel, and that's like, and not like No Country for Old Men, but like fucking Raising Arizona or some shit. Yeah. Like it shouldn't be this comedic feeling to me, but I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see if the trailer is a true representation of it. Yeah.
Time will tell. So, yeah, I'm sure that'll come out later this year. And if so, I'm sure we'll be talking about it. But that's pretty much all I had for the news anyways. So next week we're going to be back with another episode. It's going to be an extra special episode number 200. In lieu of doing a proper movie review like we always do, it's going to be a bit of a retrospective. We're going to have a look back at the last 100 episodes or so that we did. Episode 100 was similar. We did a review Get Out as well. But we're gonna try some new things, some different things. It's gonna be a bit of a surprise. I'm not gonna tell you. But yeah,
We haven't figured it out yet.
Whatever, Randy. It should be a good time. I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. I've been like going back over the past 100 episodes for, I don't know, probably a month now, like skimming them and cutting pieces out, and I've been getting a kick out of it.
Yeah, I've been working really hard on it too.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Round the clock, prepping for the 200 episode.
Yeah. Really put in a lot of effort.
We've got our team on it. The team. The whole team.
Yeah.
So yeah, until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling. We are on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. Hit us up on YouTube. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast and hit that subscribe button so we can hit 100 followers and get that custom URL. If you want to join us on Slack, you can do so. Just mention that, send it our way on one of the various social media platforms that I just mentioned, and I can send you a link to join us on Slack.
We're accepting applications for fixers around here, so
yeah.
If you want to get into the fixing business, hit us up, send us your credentials, and maybe we'll let you fix stuff for us.
Yeah, specifically plumbing.
Yeah.
The toilet's been backed up for years.
Rob shits like a fucking horse.
Damn! I'm shitting bricks.
It's true.
Yeah, I think that does it, right, guys? Did I forget anything? I cover it all?
I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, until next week, as always.
Twitch.
Truckers.
Twitch.tv/Straight Chilling Podcast. I forgot that's kind of my responsibility.
Do that. That's Justin's thing that he
putting in a lot of effort for 200. Okay.
Oh man, remembering to say URLs,
yes.
Knowing a URL without looking, man,
it's a lot. Also, Justin has been streaming on Twitch pretty much every Saturday. It's been pretty consistent. So
yeah, I think that's gonna change now in my schedule. I'll try to do weeknights now. I assume more people are available on weeknights than Saturday nights.
Yeah. Potentially. Okay, I think that is actually it now. So tune in next week for episode number 200. It's going to be a really good time. And until then, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Keep chilling, motherfucker.